Hello everybody, it's Lindsay from the Vintage Button, and today I'm slow stitching. Let me have just a little drink of water. And what I thought I would do is I would have a go at my Valentine's heart that I started last week, but I wanted to talk to you about what you need to have to start to slow stitch, and I thought I would do that at the beginning, and then I would just start to stitch and we'd see how we go. And I thought I'd show you some projects first. So you see this quite often. This is my Vintage Button logo that's got bits of glue on it because I keep it on my desk and I junk journal as well. And it's actually a piece of jeans, some coloured thread that is vintage coloured thread, but I'm going to talk about light thread, little bits and bobs out of a box, and some old buttons, and that's made that. And I think that looks quite nice. I mean, I think it looks quite nice. I put it on most of my videos. This is my first ever strawberry pincushion. Now, I've got a video making strawberry pincushions, and I have made strawberry pincushions for a long time. I was basically made redundant. From the first time I was made redundant, I had been diagnosed with endometriosis and was in a lot of pain because stress makes pain worse. And I was at home because they put me on gardening leave, and I had nothing to do, but I had to sort of keep myself sane. And so again, that's how I went into junk journaling really. I went to my resources and I found some pink felt washing cloths in my kitchen, and in the pack they were pink and they were green, and they were from Poundland, which is like the Dollar Tree if you're in America. And you can see it's really thin. It's not good quality felt at all. And then I thought, what can I make with it? And I made lots of different things, and then I found strawberries. I thought, oh, I can make a strawberry. Just fiddling around. And then these bits came quite a bit later actually. They weren't, at the first it just had this bit, the buttons. I did have some little labels saying the Vintage Button on, that a friend bought me as a Christmas present to encourage me to sell things at Christmas markets. I had stamps because I said I'd started stamps in the early noughties. I was made redundant from this job in 2011. So that's how long I've been making strawberry pincushions. And I made hundreds of them. I just kind of sat and I made them, and they became things I would give away. My daughter played with them. She used them as party favours. They were my first ever slow stitch project that I made lots of. Now, I'd always been slow stitching from being a child. I always made things, and I think it's that sort of always making things that's led me to come into slow stitching basically. And I didn't have all of this, so all of this kind of stuff, the vintage notions and threads, came later. This kind of came, it was after I moved to Cambridge, so I was made redundant from that job, then I got a job in Cambridge and we moved over, so after 2012, and it came across my path through people donating things, me finding sewing cabinets in second-hand junk shops for not a lot of money, and that's how I built my sort of Vintage Button proper vintage stash. But it took a long time, so it's from 2012 to now 2025, so like kind of 13 years of building that stuff. So before that, I would have very basic colours, and they would be from places like Poundland, where you could buy a pack of threads and they would have, like, you know, several colours. And I just used a lot of white. So there's this. So this is earlier than this, but it's still using this cloth because I found this cloth at Poundland. And like I said, sometimes it would be used in kitchen stuff, sometimes it wouldn't. I would use it in my craft because it was just cheap and I needed cheap, never really earned a lot of money. So this is the first ever needle book that I made, full stop. And it's got a little bit of denim that's from my daughter's jeans, like her first pair of jeans when she was a baby, that were hand-me-downs. So really by the time she'd finished, I couldn't hand them on to anybody else, and so I chopped them up. And I actually can feel, when I feel it, I can feel what she felt like in that pair of jeans. It's really strange. I'm big into nostalgia. And then these, I don't know where these are from, but they look like the sari silk that I've just acquired from somewhere, and I just don't know where they're from. And then my stamp stuff that I already had. So I think what I'm saying is, for you to start slow stitching, you need some needles. Now I do think you need decent needles, but any needles will do. My favourite are the hemline embroidery crewel needles, and that's because and this is only since I started getting older, the eye's a bit wider, so I can thread them easier. As my eyes are, you know, I'm in my 50s, so my eyes are going, and the eye is a little bit wider. So that's why I use like the crewel needles. But really, you just need a needle. You need thread. Doesn't have to be like my lovely really old thread. Doesn't have to be that. It could be any thread. And you need scraps of fabric. And it's nice to have like laces and old stuff, but you know, like this is just a bit of canvas from I don't know where, and my daughter's jeans. So even if we didn't have all this, it would still look nice. You could make it look nice. You don't need all the fancy stuff. You don't need to go buying kits of things. The best slow stitch is when it's made from things around you and you just incorporate them in, and they could be the most simple of things. This is like off a piece of a garment ribbon. It's not very good quality, but you know, it's just on. These are actually, I've obviously cut something out, and they're the scraps of what's been cut out. I don't have whatever it was that I cut out anymore, but I have these little bit of scraps that I've sewed on. This is another pair of trousers that my daughter used to wear, that was, you know, when she was a baby, and they just weren't, you know, I couldn't hand them on. I think I might have been the third person that had them. And you just start to collect. Get yourself a tub, put things in it, go to charity shops and see what they have in their little baggies. Have a route round, ask people, have they got sewing stuff they don't want anymore? Look in your wardrobe, see what's in your wardrobe, what you don't wear anymore, what's not worth putting on Vinted or taking to the charity shop, and snip it up. Or is it something that you really like and you want to remember? Snip it up. So what you actually need to get on with slow stitching, and then I'm going to do some of this, is you need a needle, you need thread, and you need something to sew, and that's it. Everything else, you need a pair of scissors. Alright then, you need a pair of scissors, but everything else will come in time. But for you to get started, that's all you need. Which sounds really simple, but it really is, because that's the whole point for me. Slow stitching, it's all about things being simple, and like the action of it, holding the cloth, pulling that needle through, for me is just very satisfactory. It's not about complicated stitches. Now some slow stitchers on YouTube do wonderful complicated stitches. That's not ever going to be me, because that's not my motivation. I think it looks beautiful. I'm sometimes very envious of their work, but I know that like I need this to be something that is simple and switches my brain off rather than switching my brain on. And it doesn't have to be perfect, as you can see by my not very good tension there. So if you've never slow stitched before and you've started seeing the videos popping up on YouTube, because I suspect, looking at my my algorithm, that slow stitching is probably the next junk journaling for like content because my slow stitching content is pushed more than my junk journaling content. And that's fine because I love them both. And they both go in with my kind of notion of wanting to do crafts that sit gently on the earth, that don't leave much of a mark sustainably wise. And they're frugal, which is another thing that's really important, particularly in these trying times. I think everybody everywhere has noticed that, there isn't as much money as there used to be. I know that's true in our house. So if you want to get started slow stitching, my advice to you is see if you've got a needle, see if you've got some thread, a pair of scissors, go into your house and find 3 different colours of fabric. If you look at this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of fabric, and then the trims are extra. But you could find just the patchwork in your house now. Most people have got clothes that, there's just so many things that are made cheaply, sadly, and they're throwaway. In fact, I remember when in the noughties, without thinking really, going to Primark, and I still shop at Primark because that's kind of the money that we have spare after we've paid all the bills. I buy things from nicer places too, but I generally find that the manufacture methods are similar, unless you're buying the stuff where you order and then it's made up in this country. So I would go to Primark and we would buy these things. And I remember a friend said to me, "Oh, you can buy it and throw it away for that." I thought, buy it and throw it away? And it was that you would go and spend money on something and thinking, well, it doesn't matter if it doesn't last very long because it's so cheap, I can go back and just get something else. Which is really sad. It's desperately sad, actually. And so I kind of don't want to live my life like that. And I didn't actually end up, I would buy things, but I wouldn't do the buy it and throw it away for that. That's not how I lived. And I remembered I was slow stitching even back then. I've got a patchwork blanket that I've still got, that those clothes that ended up being ill-fitting and you didn't end up wearing them that long, I would snip them up and make things out of them. And I've still got one of the patchwork blankets that I made then. I remember actually we used to all make things, and I would cut clothes up and make more clothes, make jean skirts out of a pair of jeans. I would make refurb t-shirts and stuff like that, and we would just sort of all sit round and craft really in this house that I shared. Good times, good memories. So slow stitching just didn't have that name, slow stitching. I just hand sewed. That was my thing. I like to have a bit of hand stitching close by. It was one of the things that soothed me, was sort of doing hand stitching. And I would do it. So you don't need fancy things. You literally need a needle and thread and a pair of scissors and some fabric to stick together. And I know, because I remember when I got into the scrapbooking thing, and that's really the story of the junk journal, is because I got into the scrapbooking thing and I bought all of the things and never really did it properly. And I don't want to encourage anybody to do that. I don't like, that's not really what I want for my channel. I would rather build a community of people that are creative in a way that doesn't damage them, doesn't damage their finances, doesn't damage the planet. or other people and they're making, like, kind of how they make their money. Because the more we buy the stuff, the more profitable it comes for the people to treat people badly. That's just, it's not even a political thing. I don't think that. I think that's just common sense, that if we keep buying stuff that is so cheaply made, somebody pays the price, and it's never the person at the top of the chain that pays the price. So I think that's more of an economical thing. So there we go. So find your resources from where they are. Get going. Get crafting. Don't buy all of these kits. Don't, I don't want to be preachy. It's up to you if you buy these kits. I would not recommend. That's a different way to put it, Lindsay. I would not recommend. And then I love sitting and putting things together, and then you end up making things that are nice for your house, for your friends, nice as gifts, and you'll get better as you do things. The more you practice something, the more skilled you'll become at it. That's my daughter talking to the cat. The cat who's just got a hula hoop. My husband bought him a hula hoop. He does tricks. He's quite a clever cat, actually. We have trained him to do quite a few tricks. That's completely off the topic, but there we go. So if you clicked on this video and you've made it this far and you've never watched me before, and you thought, I wanted a comprehensive list of what I could do to get going with slow stitch, it's very simple. You need a needle, you need some thread, you need a pair of scissors, and some different fabrics that, doesn't have to be, and there is, like, these are bought fabrics. This is sample book. The main base is sample book. I've got that free from Facebook Marketplace. That's a fantastic place to get your crafting stuff for, like, either free or for little to nothing. Facebook Marketplace, I've got some amazing things off there. Just going to travel back up and get to that corner so I don't have to cut my thread. But I think, it's a great hobby to get into. But I just don't want, I don't want to perpetuate that sort of myth of, like, or the pressure, add to the pressure to just, like, keep buying stuff. And I know, like, we joke about, that, that's your hobby, is you buying the craft supplies. But, like, you have to live with it. If you saw what was behind me, I have, and I do this sort of, I don't buy new stuff now, but I have got a mountain of craft supplies that I need to sort out behind me, and it's just more work. And really what I want to do is craft. I don't really want to be managing all of this stuff. And that's what it becomes. It becomes sort of like, I'll buy. I remember people, the scrapbooking stuff, I went to, like, a crop, and they were like, they would bring all this paper out and not use it, and they'd be like, I just like to look at it and stroke it. And I'm like, why are you doing that? And then I'd find myself buying things and going, look at that, it's really pretty, and I can't use it. And now it's kind of like, well, it's not obsolete, but it's not doing what it was there to do. It's not doing its purpose. So yeah, get into slow stitching. I recommend it. I think it's a lovely little hobby to have. And I don't think you need to have a lot of skill. This is clearly not very skilled. Don't need to have a lot of skill. Don't need to have any money really to get going with it. I think you could get going anywhere as long as you can get yourself a needle. There's some really nice little projects on the vintage button that I will have the presence of mind to put underneath in the description box below, just to, you know, make some little things, get started. They don't have to be flat, so things can be flat, but a lot of the things I make have got a bit of a 3D element to it. We've made 2 different pincushions and a needle book, and we've made a tea cozy. That was a really nice project to do. We made Christmas stockings. We're gonna make bags. There's so many things. We're gonna make some I'm gonna make an Easter bunny. So we're gonna make soft toys, just using the things that we have around us. It's a really lovely craft to get into. So I'm going to lay out what you need to do slow stitching. You need a pair of scissors. It's not gonna, let's do a silver pair of scissors. So like a pair of scissors. You need thread, but it doesn't have to be vintage thread, any thread. And you need a needle. And you need fabric. It's so simple, doesn't have to be complicated, and you can build yourself up using more stitches. If you want to get into doing different stitches, there's ways of doing that. Watching YouTube, you know, you can buy these kits, and by all means buy them, because I think, oh, that's quite nice, where you sort of get an embroidery hoop and it's got images kind of printed on. Or if you've already got crafting supplies, I've done a video on using stamps in your slow stitching. Just stamp on them and stitch over. Just make marks over. The same with, like, get yourself, this is what samplers used to be, you know, like, get yourself a tutorial on how to do French knots. Do a load of French knots. Get yourself a tutorial on how you do a blanket stitch. Do a load of blanket stitches. You know, like, you kind of do those things. Just need a needle and a thread. They don't need anything else. They don't need anything that's hyper specialized and very expensive, or trying to get that, because I think that's what the sort of the Timu and the AliExpress is trying to get, that same, you know, like, it's the same with the junk journaling stuff. Everybody doesn't want to pay Tim Holtz, or can't afford to pay the Tim Holtz money, and it's probably made in very similar ways, and so, you know, they go on to AliExpress or Timu and try to buy the same thing, and it's kind of like low cost but high price, you know, like kind of or low price and high cost. I don't know what I'm trying to, the way I'm saying it, but basically it's sort of the knowing the price of everything and seeing the value in little. And it's because we kind of fall into this trap of wanting to do what everybody else is doing, and wanting to do it in the way they're doing it, and for it to look like the way of doing it. And the best art just looks like their own art. Like, at the most attractive sort of journals and things, when I look on YouTube, it's not because it's doing it. In fact, I've kind of stopped watching a lot of stuff because it just looks the same thing. It's the same type of thing, and I want to be aware of not doing that. And that's not a criticism to anybody, because I think it's all beautiful work. But I just wanna do what my thing, and have it look like something that's me, rather than me using certain products. So that's my £2 worth. I'm going to watch this video back before I put it out, because I don't know if I've overstepped the mark. I don't want to be like preachy or critical, but I do want to inspire people to use what they have and not to buy into the hype of buying all of this stuff. We don't need it. we go. I love that feeling of the thread going through. And the reason I mean, I've said this before, the reason that I put lots, I put like, it's 4 threads basically. Well, it's 2 at the top, but it makes like a 4-ply thread through the needle because it's doubled over. It's just because this thread is old. It's at least 50 years old. Like the plastic is 70s. That's kind of like before. That's kind of like 60s, 50s even. I think that's even before that. So, you know, like kind of, they're not going to be the most strong. Like, I wouldn't use them to make a garment with, or anything that needed any strength. But they're perfectly fine for things like this. So there we go. I like that. I'm going to do that one there as well. Let's do that. So it's nice, like, I like to go and buy really old bits and pieces and vintage bits and pieces, but like I said, if you're in a place where you can't do that, I guarantee you that there's cloth in your house, or on Facebook Marketplace, or a charity shop, or like I've been watching. Our charity shops are nowhere near as good as the American and like Canadian. I remember my sister-in-law telling me about in the Canada ones where you just buy these big bags and by the weight. And that's because, like, we're not as big as physically big, so we don't have as many people, and so there's just not as much extra stuff. So I think that's why we don't have these, like, the Goodwill bins and stuff like that. But you know, that would be a great place. Pick a few bits and pieces up. Here we go. So, let me know in the comments if you slow stitch. Are you just getting into it? Where do you get your supplies from? Let me know if you're contemplating slow stitch and thinking, oh, I need to have all the stuff, when you really don't. You really, really don't. I remember as a child, I literally just would, whatever was in the mending, and it would just be black and white thread. Very rare a coloured thread. Because my mum didn't have all of this stuff. She used to have massive spools because she was a machinist. Massive, like, industrial spools of thread. And that's where we would get our thread from if we wanted to make anything. So there might be a navy and there might be a red, but there wouldn't be anything other than black and white, really. So I will finish this off and then I will show it in another film. I don't know. I think so. I think I'll finish it off and I'll just show it. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish this bit off here. I'm going to put this bit on the top of that bit, wrong sides together, and I'm going to sew around because I want all of this raggedy stuff. Leave a bit of a gap, stuff it with, I've got some wool from some medication that arrives all wrapped up and frozen, and then I'm just going to slow stitch the hole up, and then there will be a little padded heart. I remember in one house when we first got married, I made loads of these that would dangle off a mirror. They look really nice and they didn't cost anything. Old bedding, old bed sheets, old pillowcases where they might be, you know, a little bit dull and a bit sullen, but you can cut, there's big bits of it that's not, cut it up, use it. There's so many things that we have to hand, and we can make a craft ourselves from it. And you don't need all the expensive things. Not at all. So there we go. I hope you have a good Sunday. I'm going to go and get some lunch now and sort out what I'm going to cook for dinner. I've been doing lots of junk journaling, so I think I need a little bit of a break from my craft room, which is unheard of because normally I'm dying to get myself in here. But yeah, thank you very much for listening to me. Like I said, I'm going to listen to this back and see if it's something I want to put out or not. Alright then, everybody. Bye bye.